Welcome back to the 2 Point Show, where we give you the latest sports rundown. We are your hosts, Gideon and Joey, breaking down stories, giving hot takes, and interviewing athletes around the world. From buzzer beaters to bold predictions, we will give you fresh analysis, real opinions, and some fun arguments along the way. So whether you're tuning in on your drive, in the gym, or simply on your couch, get ready for a good one. This is the 2 Point Show. What's up, guys? We got a big-time guest today on the 2 Point Show. Another Michigan State football player, but he's a linebacker. We got Brady Pretzlaff joining us today. Brady, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on, get to know you, talk some ball. We're here. So here's a little bit of background about Brady. So Brady is a linebacker for the Michigan State Spartans. He's actually from Gaylord, Michigan, all the way up north there, if you guys shout out Gaylord. He came to Michigan State as a highly regarded recruit in the class of 2024, choosing to stay home and represent his home state program. Before college, Brady was one of the top defensive players in Michigan, earning all-state all-state honors and putting up impressive tackle numbers in high school. Now early in his collegiate career, he is developing within MSU's defense and working toward becoming a key contributor at the linebacker position. So shout out Brady. Thank you again, Brady.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What an intro, Joe. That was good. You're starting up spring ball, Brady. Obviously, we were talking a little bit before the show. Your first practice outside with this nice weather. So, kind of talk about how practices have been and just how the spring's going.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. Obviously new staff, a lot of new guys, so there's a period of adjustment where everyone has to kind of get to know each other a little bit and know how practices run, how everyone kind of works together as a team. But I've been loving the intensity. Obviously, Coach Fitz is a very intense, passionate guy, so practices kind of reflect that within him. So, I'm loving how they're running, and it's been great to be back playing a little bit of football.
So, Brady, I want to talk about you growing up in just early stages. What was it like growing up in Gaylord and becoming a football player there? It's not a very highly populated town. Just tell us from the up north.
Yeah, so actually, fun fact, I moved to Gaylord when I was in 8th grade, so I grew up in Big Rapids. That's the home of a lot of people know Ferris State and stuff like that. Another small town, nothing too crazy, but, it was amazing. I was around a lot of great people there in Big Rapids growing up. I always loved football. My dad has always been a football coach at the high school level, so growing up, I was around the guys, handing out waters, stuff like that, just seeing what it was like to be a part of a team, and had a lot of great people to kind of mirror my game after and learn from. And then obviously, moved up to Gaylord. That's the place I consider home. Met a lot of my lifelong friends there, great families, great people, and great coaches that really pushed me. Not a ton of guys come from up north and come to this level of football, so it's something that I've been very blessed to be able to do. But yeah, it's been great. The small town atmosphere, that's kind of what I'm used to. But yeah, it was amazing growing up in those areas.
Yeah, so
Nice.
When did you realize you could play at, the Big Ten level?
Yeah, so obviously like a lot of kids, it's been a dream my whole life to be able to play at a place like Michigan State. I would say the point that it really started to lock in, like, hey, this is something that can happen, would probably be around my freshman year of high school. Got pulled up to play some varsity ball as a freshman and got some all-conference stuff, and then went to a few camps, and Michigan State was actually the first one to kind of show interest in me. And then, so that was the summer after my freshman year. They said, you can come down for a game, hit up some more camps that year and whatnot. And, that's when it kind of clicked, like, hey, this might be something more than a dream. This is something that I can make happen. So around that part of my life was when I first kind of realized, hey, this could be a real deal for me.
So, Brady, you said your dad was a big football figure in your life with coaching and stuff. Obviously, your dad. So, were there any other role models growing up with football in your life?
Specifically with football, there's definitely a ton, but throughout my athletic career, along with my dad, obviously would be my mom. She showed a lot of toughness. She played some basketball up in Northern Michigan, D2, so both of them really just set the example for, hey, like, you might not always be the most athletic, physical guy out there, but if you really put your mind to it and work every play, you can make great things happen. And those two kind of setting that stage for me is the reason why I'm here today. Beyond that, obviously, throughout high school, my head coach, DJ Simoniak, big shout out to him. He kind of was along that same train of thought, like, believing in me that I can make something like this happen, and then holding me to that standard. You say you want to do something, then you got to handle those early mornings, late nights, work in between. So those three people throughout my athletic journey, with the big emphasis on my parents, have really showed me it's possible, and they've had a huge influence.
That's awesome.
Do you think, growing up in a smaller town, do you think it was harder for you to get recruited and, get coaches' attention?
Yeah, I would say definitely. You got to be your own biggest personal ambassador coming from up there. They're not sending scouts from all over the country to come recruit Gaylord, so it really falls a lot more on yourself to kind of go out to these coaches. Those prospect camps were huge for me, but it all starts with the tape. It always leads back to it too. So, you could go ball out at a camp, they're going to put on the tape. The tape better be to the level that you want to play at if you want to go there. But I always tell, kids from Northern Michigan still to this day, like, if you have any questions, anything like that, hit me up, because I had a lot of help to get where I'm at. There's a couple that made it out from Northern Michigan to some big schools that kind of showed me it was possible and helped me step by step. So I'm trying to do the same for the people following me, show them it's possible.
Did you ever consider or maybe think about moving down south to the state of Michigan and maybe to get your name out there more?
There was a time, it was weird, so not necessarily, but during COVID, they were thinking about shutting us down. There was a lot of disputes with the mask and stuff like that, that type of stuff, and some people were really pushing back, and there were some fights going on that was going to potentially end my season. So I figured, if that's the case and they're still playing ball at some schools down south, I thought about it briefly, but the brotherhood, the connections, the people, the town in general, I had too much of a connection to ever really want to leave, and obviously my family up there.
For sure. So what made you choose Michigan State over the other schools recruiting you?
Yeah, Michigan State was always a school that I loved, really stood out to me. First off, obviously it's my home state. It's so special seeing all the people that are able to come to the games. The family can make it easy, all that. So location was big for me. And then really just the brand of football. I'm a Northern Michigan football player. Michigan State's known for the grit and the toughness. We have Coach Bullen, and he emphasizes that all the time now that he's here. And really, I just want to do what I can to help Michigan State get to that type of ball, that physical brand of ball that they're known for, And there's obviously been some huge success here, huge stage. So, why not? Why wouldn't I want to play for a school like that?
So do your parents, Brady, every home game, do they travel 3 or 4 hours down to East Lansing?
Yeah, it's I'd say about 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that.
Oh, it's not that bad. Okay.
It's not too bad. So that's what's nice. It's not that bad of a drive. So yeah, they make it down for every game. So far they have. So yeah, and hopefully
That's
we can get them out to some away games too.
Nice.
That's very cool.
So you redshirted your first year at MSU. Tell us a little bit about how that helped your development.
Oh man, it was huge in my development. I had some great guys to really learn from. That first year, you want to get on the field, and I had some opportunities to do so within the 4-game limit of the redshirt, obviously. But I had some great people to learn after, like Jordan Turner, he's in the NFL now. Cal Halliday was an amazing football player here. Wayne Matthews giving his shot at the NFL, and then obviously Jordan Hall, who's still here, and I'm still learning from him. So, it was great to kind of see, hey, this is what it takes to be a top-end linebacker and play some ball here. So that year was huge in my development, just getting adjusted to everything too.
So, Brady, your season last year was cut short. Very early on, you had a season-ending injury, and you were telling us off camera you messed up your shoulder in so many ways, and I don't even want to get into that, but how just tough was it dealing with an injury like that to where you had to sit out the rest of the year?
Yeah, it really teaches you a lot about yourself, how you're going to handle adversity. It's bound to come up, whether it's an injury or something else. But really just trying to keep my head down and doing what I can do to get back to play. The worst part really was I was starting to feel like I was kind of getting in my groove a little bit, getting used to playing some real snaps and all that. So it kind of knocked me out of that. And, it messes with your head at times. You want to be out there playing. You want to do what you can to help the team win. But, sometimes, like I said, adversity comes up, and you just got to do what you can to get back out there, and that's what I think that I'm trying to do right now.
Talk us through the play that made you, go down, and what game was it in?
Yeah, so it was Youngstown State, week 3. It was a play that I was blitzing on. It was a blitz, and then the guard pulled, so I got a fit off his butt, and then the quarterback was right there, so I tackled him back there. A TFO or whatever, and then I put my arm down to brace, and the shoulder already had some issues. The front, we found out in the spring, was partially torn, and I had the option to get it done and then come back week 3, or try to play through it, which I obviously tried to play through it. Then it kind of blew out the rest of the shoulder on that play, and I kind of knew instantly when I hit that it was bad.
Yeah, that sucks. So, when you got injured and then, you do your physical therapy and all that, how do you stay locked in with the team? You're not a player anymore. You're kind of, you're getting the guys rowdy, how do you do that?
I think the main thing with that is just being really engaged at practice. Do what you can to help the team, which is like, in my case, I like to think is bring energy. With some of the younger guys, maybe watch them specifically, coach them up on the plays they might have messed up on, make sure they understand why they messed up on those, and then really just getting mental reps. Acting like you're in the game or the practice or game, and like you're taking the reps for yourself. So that you can keep your mind sharp on your keys and your responsibility. That's the main things I did.
So, like, how do you mentally just stay positive through that?
Yeah, it's hard. Faith is a big thing in my life. So obviously, I think everything happens for a reason. It's all planned out in advance for me. So just trying to rely on that and my faith, and then also, just doing what you can day in and day out, not looking too far in the future to be able to get back and know that there is hope. There's going to be a time that I'm back out on the field, and just trying to be patient with it all because it is a process. But it does suck mentally at times. So it's something that you have to fight through.
What would you say you focus on right now at practice as a linebacker? What is the linebacker crew learning like right now?
Yeah, I would say, first, like, beyond the scheme is just being the leaders of the defense. That's the role that the linebackers take on by being linebackers. Energy every play, making sure everyone's in the right spot, kind of directing traffic. And then obviously now, with a lot of new people, new coaches, scheme stays pretty similar. We kept Rossi, obviously, Coach Rossi. But, just tightening up all the details while also being the providers of energy is the main focal points right now.
So, what part of your game do you think has improved the most since arriving at MSU?
Man, I would say, really my game has improved all around. I would say probably in the coverage game, probably is the most that I've improved upon, because I don't know how much you guys or your listeners know about up north ball, but it's a lot of ground and pound. So it takes time getting used to all the concepts, understanding what the offense is trying to do with their concepts. But I'd say in the coverage game is probably where I improved the most so far. But really all around, they have great development here.
All right, so let's transition a little bit to the team aspect of Michigan State. So a lot has happened in the last couple months with the Michigan State football program. Different coaches, new people coming in, new people or old people going out. Just tell us about Coach Pat Fitzgerald and what he has been like so far in these first few months with Michigan State.
Yeah, Coach Fitz, I love him already. He's a great guy. He connects well with the whole team is something I've noticed. He's a guy that you can go to with anything you need. It's not like a head coach where you're scared to go and talk to them or anything like that. He shows up every day with, the most energy possible, and you can tell he's very passionate about what he does, and he just wants to see us succeed. So I couldn't be more excited for a coach like Coach Fitzgerald to lead us into this year, and I think Spartan fans are going to be very excited for what he's going to produce with us.
Yeah, I mean, from everything I've seen, man, he seems awesome. So I'm really pumped
He's
about
great.
it too, being a student on campus. So
Definitely.
here's the thing too. So I just saw the other day on Instagram, it was a video, and Coach D'Antonio came and talked to the team. So talk about Coach D'Antonio. He's one of the greats here at Michigan State.
Oh, definitely. I grew up in the state of Michigan watching him all the time. He, like you said, he's a legend here in the state, and especially at Michigan State. Like I said earlier, the way that he coaches teams, to be able to play physical, tough football, that kind of came from him and his teams and all that type of stuff. And, we're doing everything we can to reach the level of success that some of his teams did. And, it's just great to see him come back to the program and still be involved. And that's a common theme in Michigan State, They say, like, Spartan dog for life, and a lot of guys come back, and that's just awesome to see.
For sure.
What do you think it means to be, a Spartan dog for life? Just tell us a little bit about the program, just being that special.
Yeah, it's kind of a culture associated with Michigan State, the way that we attack everything on and off the field. So that's something that all the players really try to embody, and that's something that the coaches emphasize doesn't leave when you leave the program. It's something that sticks with you for life. So they always say, we're on the shoulders of the people that came before us, and we're trying to set the foundation for the people that come after us too. So, it's something that kind of always sticks with you, hence the name Spartan Dog for life.
So, personal level, tell us about your relationship now with Coach Pat Fitzgerald. Like, how tight are you guys?
No, yeah, I'd say pretty tight for sure. Right when he got here, we sat down. He was able to have a meeting with me for a good amount of time, kind of explaining where he sees me fit, where he sees this program heading, and obviously I loved what he had to say about it all. He was a phenomenal linebacker, obviously for Northwestern when he actually was a player. So it's great to just be able to get a relationship with him, and that's something that he emphasizes with all the players and him and all the players together. It's huge on the connection piece because if you don't have a brotherhood in college football, when stuff gets hard, you kind of crumble. So emphasizing that relationship piece amongst us and him and the whole team together has been huge, and he's just a great leader. So it's great to learn from him.
I know he hasn't been here long, but do you have any like funny stories or funny moments with Coach Pat? Even with
Oh
the team?
man, specifically I can't think of any off the top of my head, but man, he just always has the juice. Like you come in at a 7 a.m. meeting, he's bringing in the band. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but
Oh
like
yeah.
that's just an embodiment of how he is. So always has the juice, and it's great to see. There's probably gonna be a lot of funny stories I'll be able to think of here in the next
Yeah,
few
I can
weeks.
relate to the juice too. So it was back in December. It was right when he got hired, and it was Michigan State basketball. They had a game against Iowa, and I
Yep.
was in lower bowl of the Breslin, and they brought him out for halftime, and oh my goodness, dude, he was just going nuts, like screaming
Yeah.
into the mic, and everyone was going crazy. Like it was a
No.
whole new world with Spartan football at that game.
Oh, definitely, and like. The thing that some people might think is that's like for show or whatever, he's like that 24/7.
That's what it
He
seems like.
always has that juice, whether there's cameras on him or not, he's bringing that juice energy, and I think that all stems from his passion for the game and for us. So, I mean, it's great.
He cares about you guys. That's awesome.
100%.
What would you say your welcome to Michigan State moment was?
Man, there was a couple times, you're going from playing maybe not the best ball in the country in Northern Michigan football to you got, big O linemen, fast receivers, smart quarterbacks, running backs that can read like crazy. Nothing like sticks out like exactly, but I remember my first spring ball here was a huge adjustment period. Just learning like, hey, you're not the strongest, fastest, biggest guy on the field anymore. You really got to lock in on your keys, footwork, the little things make the big difference. So there's been a time or two where blockers got the best of me or receivers, hit me with a little move, got me jumping. But yeah, I'd say there's a big adjustment period when you first get here, but it starts to even out as you go on.
So on a culture level, how tight is the brotherhood on this team?
Oh man, so I would say it's getting extremely tight. It's hard at first because there's with the coaching change, there's 40 guys that leave, 40 new guys coming in or whatever
Right.
it was. A lot of the new staff members and whatnot. So it kind of takes a little bit just to learn even names of people with all that new people coming in and out. And then once you get that kind of down, you start to learn more about the person, what they're like, and all that type of stuff. And I really feel like this is kind of becoming a point where a lot of the rooms are meshing, and then the rooms, like linebackers and safeties, linebackers and D-line, whatever, are meshing too. And, then the both sides of the ball start to mesh together. And I think that's kind of what's happening. And they focus on bringing in a lot of great guys, and you can tell that when you're walking through the locker room. So, I mean, it's great. The connections are getting there.
Who are some of the boys that you're most closest with on a team? Give a couple shout-outs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the linebacker room, Damari Malone, that's one of my closer guys on the team. Me and Alessio, we were roommates when I first got here.
Oh, no way.
So, yeah, same class schedule, all that. He's finance too, like me. So, that's one of my guys for sure. But yeah, obviously like Damari Les, Jordan, he's been a great leader for me. I've gotten real close with him. So those are a few names off the top of my head. Even on the other side of the ball, like Rakeem Johnson, that's a close friend. Me, him, and Les went down to Marco Island in Florida for spring break, just fishing and stuff like that. Nice little trip. But yeah, those are my guys for sure. And there's a lot more, but those are just the ones off the top of my head.
Cool.
How has the coaching staff changed you as a player on the field and a human being off the field?
Yeah, starting with Coach Rossi, he offered me when I was like 16 years old, I think. I was committed to Minnesota when he was there, and then we both ended up coming over to Michigan State. So he obviously has been a big factor in my life on and off the field. He always reinforces like what you put your time into is what you're going to be. So, put your time into things that matter, stuff like that. That's one of the examples where it helps, both on and off the field. With Coach Bully here now, he's been someone I haven't known quite as long, but I can already tell, with his juice, his energy, and passion too, that he's going to be a big figure that kind of helps shape me on and off the field. And they focus on developing not only on the field but off it as well. So those guys have been great.
So you mentioned Minnesota. It made me wonder, what other schools were interested in you in your recruiting process when you were first early on getting recruited in high school?
Yeah, so early on there wasn't a ton. My first offer was Central Michigan, and then Illinois offered, Minnesota offered, and then I committed to them and pretty much shut down my recruitment for a little bit over a year, I think it was. And then obviously at the end I opened it back up and was hearing for a lot more schools because that's kind of when my rankings or whatever kind of jumped. And then obviously Michigan State throughout the whole process I was really involved with them. But then at the end there was some bigger dogs that kind of came in and talked to me, but I knew right when I decommitted that I was going to be a Spartan, and that's where I wanted to be, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Nice.
Very cool.
So, tell us what it means to run out the field. The tunnel, going out to Spartan Stadium, and just seeing all the fans. Tell us what it means.
Yeah, man, it means the world. Like that's one of the coolest parts. Since I've been here, is just running out of that field because. You look around you and you see all the fans that, dedicated their time and money to be able to come watch us play. And it shows how much they care. And, this fan base, to me, is the best in the country. They support us through the highs and the lows since I've been here. And, it just means the world running out in front of all those people and be able to compete at the Big Ten level in front of all of them. And that, that obviously means a ton. Just thinking about it is almost giving me chills because it's a crazy feeling running out in front of that many people.
Yeah, man, 75,000 people. I can't even imagine doing that. Like, that's just just gives me the tingles a little bit. That's so many people, dude.
If you can't get hyped for a game running out in front of that many people, roaring, I don't know what'll get you.
There's something wrong with you. So, besides Spartan Stadium, what would you say is your favorite game atmosphere, or favorite stadium you've played at so far?
Yeah, so we went out. Oregon was really cool because you kind of walk out pregame. You're doing pregame warm-ups and. You look around, their capacity isn't crazy, but then once it fills, they have that little overhang over the bench of the visitors. Man, it gets rowdy in there. It's loud. So that was a challenging one, but that was a pretty fun one to play in. Just being around, that many fans, that big of a brand was pretty cool to be able to compete against them. That'd probably be the one that stands out.
For sure.
What have you learned about the rivalry with the team down the road?
Yeah, man, that's the game that we all, kind of mark on the calendars. It's the big one. And I grew up in Michigan, obviously, so I know what that means. You got green and white or blue and gold. So, I mean, what side who's on and whatnot. And, it's been something that's meant something to me my whole life, growing up here. So it's just an amazing feeling being able to contribute into that rivalry now. So, that's the rivalry for us. So.
Yeah, and it's awesome, too, that when Coach Pat came in, in the first ever interview or press he ever did, he said one game means a little more.
Oh, so, and that's how
really
it is,
cool
for sure.
Too. That was really cool.
Yes, sir.
So, campus life, just what's a typical day like for you outside of football?
Yeah, obviously a lot of classes right now. The class load's getting pretty heavy. I hope to be able to graduate my first degree here next spring, so it's kind of that hot spot right now where you're grinding through the classes. But outside of that, obviously, it's a beautiful campus here. So just trying to get outdoors when I can, just kind of see what's going on around the campus, hit up a couple different food spots and stuff like that and whatnot. So just kind of enjoying the beautiful campus that we get to have here at Michigan State, even when it's walking from class to class, which, classes are very important but not always the most fun at times. So
yeah, I mean, when I'm walking through, man, and I can see some people just finally, playing basketball outside or doing whatever. Just more people outdoors. It's just, it's nice, because it's finally warming up here, man.
Yeah. And the part that's the best, at least with the outdoors and all that, is because we're here all summer. So we're doing workouts all through the summer. It's not as, I say I don't enjoy as much just because there isn't all the people, like you said. You walk out seeing guys getting some shots up, running, some 4-on-4, 5-on-5, 3-on-3 stuff, it's just cool to see. But I mean, the campus is just so beautiful during that time of the year, and there's a little more peaceful with everyone gone. So that's something that's real nice too about being here.
I bet it's so peaceful when no one's here, man.
Definitely.
So what do Spartan fans mean to you personally?
Yeah, a lot of my closest friends and family are Spartan fans. So like I keep getting back to, growing up here, I see like their support for the program, all the time and resources that they pour into us, so you want to do everything you can on the day-to-day basis, make them, give them what they deserve, which is, the best brand of football possible. So, obviously like I have a lot of personal connections in my life that are huge Spartan fans, so it's great to be able to play for the home state team here and obviously, get all the friends and family that are huge Spartan fans out to the games and let them enjoy it in person and whatnot. So obviously a huge personal connection to a lot of Spartan fans and really all the Spartan fans that put in their time and effort into us.
For sure.
What's the team's goals and your goal? Your goals for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I'll start with my goal is, to contribute as much as I can in whatever role they see fit for me. I want to play as much ball as possible and do it at the highest level. So I think that starts with the day-to-day process, like how are you attacking practice, weight room, nutrition, sleep, film, all that type of stuff, the things you can control today that will pay off obviously in the future. And that's kind of the team's view on it too. Obviously we want to win as many games as possible, the championships and all that, make the playoffs and go deep and win the playoffs. I mean that's the end goal obviously, but like my personal goals, it comes down to the same thing for the team, which is what are you doing today to get us there? So trying to have the kind of vision of where we want to go while at the same time keeping it close range to, hey, what can I do today to get us to that point?
So, Brady, long term then, think a little longer now, down the road,
Yeah.
couple years, what's the dream for you?
The dream is obviously to play football at the highest level possible, which would be the NFL. That's the end goal. That would be such a blessing and something that's in my vision that I see that I can do. I just got to go out and play the best ball I can. And like I said, put in the time to the controllables and, let the rest handle itself, whether that's in my plan or not. But that would be the end goal is obviously, being a player in the NFL, as I've seen a lot of my teammates do.
So, Brady, I want to ask you something. So, I kind of just thought of this out of my head. So, in the last couple years of college sports, NIL, a lot of like new things have changed in the college world, And I just want to ask, with your name and stuff, how much talk about the opportunities you've had with this a new era of college sports.
Yeah, I see a lot of kind of outsiders getting, real angry at all the NIL and portal stuff, and I do understand their frustrations because there's a lot of movement within college football, but the opportunities that we now have are things that players in the past have never had.
Right.
The financial support and all that. That's led me to actually invest in real estate. I have two properties now. That if I can keep scaling that, whether football works out for me or it doesn't, kind of sets my family up for the rest of my life. So that's the side that a lot of fans kind of leave out, is, hey, these are life-changing opportunities for a lot of guys that have never had access to resources like this before. So, I mean, I obviously think it's a great thing when it's used the right way. I don't think jumping school to school to school for more NIL is a smart or very, good game plan at all. And that's where I see, a lot of frustration from college football fans. And it's frustrating for me, too, because, you walk in there after the last game, see all your guys, and then, come back after a break and half of them are gone, which it gets frustrating, but there's a ton of opportunity available when it comes to that, and I'm trying to capitalize on that to set me and my future family up for life.
That's awesome. That's really cool, dude.
That's a great answer.
Appreciate it.
You got any message to the Spartan faithful?
Really just, how much me and the rest of my team appreciate them. Like I said, they've been with us through the highs and the lows, and they dump a ton of energy and support into us. And we see that, we see, the level of support that Spartan Nation has for us. And, I just want to say, how much we really do appreciate that on a day-to-day basis. And, when the work gets hard, a lot of times, think about you guys coming out to the games and all the stuff that you do for us. So we're just trying to replicate that back.
Brady, you got any hobbies you do, outside of football? What do you like doing in your free time?
Yeah, me, a Northern Michigan guy, there isn't a ton of stuff to do, but obviously, I'm big into fishing. I love fishing lakes and stuff. That's my kind of go-to. I do some hunting, which obviously is on pause for a little bit with the schedule of college football. It kind of makes it a little tough to do that. And Gaylord's well known for its golf. That's something that I've been trying to get into the past few years. My dad never really played growing up, so I actually got a job at a golf course when I was still in high school, and it was free golf, so I figured, why not go out and try to learn how to do this thing. And
best job you'll ever have.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. So now it's kind of becoming a slight addiction in the summer when I can swing one, you know. We work out in the morning, so the rest of the day is free. You know, that's a common hobby for a lot of the guys. Go out and play some golf in the evening. So
For sure.
those are my go-tos.
Yeah, I played actually at a Gaylord Country Club like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been to that one a lot of times. You know, there's a ton of great ones up in Gaylord, and some of the nicer ones, the nicest ones like Treetops. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's like the nicest one up there. One of my buddies worked there, you know, through high school, so I would try to get on that with him as much as I can. I kind of felt bad because a golfer like me should not be playing that course, but you know, it was a great time.
Hey, man, it's all that matters is you're having fun. So
No doubt, no doubt.
well, that's all we got for you, Brady. Michigan State fans, college football fans, look out for number 45 this year on the field, man. We're gonna be rooting you on, cheering you on. So, Brady, thank you so much again for coming on to the 2 Point Show.
Awesome, yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. So that's gonna do it, guys. Brady, good luck for the rest of spring ball. Go green. Good luck for summer and the upcoming season. We're excited. So,
Yes, sir. Thank you guys.
all right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.